MeTV Alaska presents Alaska Means Business, an in-depth look at the challenges and opportunities of doing business in Alaska and the people who make business bustle in this great state. It's been said that if you want to get something done, ask a busy person. And so today, we're traveled to Southeast Alaska to visit with Sitka artist, entrepreneur, community leader, and Renaissance woman, Cynthia Gibson. Welcome, Cynthia.
Hi, Blake. Thanks for having me.
So Cynthia heads up one of the key offices for Wayfinder Wealth in Alaska. Wayfinder Wealth provides access to comprehensive financial planning solutions. Cynthia's enthusiasm for planning and financial planning has coined her tagline, Inspiring Financial Action. Additionally, Cynthia and her husband Keith own and operate Stone Lantern House, a luxury rental in Sitka. Alaska Storytellers, a performance troupe that provides accurate and entertaining shows to folks in Alaska for the cruise ships and independent visitors alike. In addition to a litany of boards and organizations, Cynthia is an accomplished artist under the banner of Lateral Line Designs, with a piece, of course, featured in the Museum of the North in Fairbanks. Cynthia is a fervent cold water enthusiast. We're going to learn more about that, and she enjoys sharing the benefits of cold water, something abundant in Alaska. Let's start there, Cindy. Start with the cold water. How did you discover the benefits of cold water, and how exactly does it all work?
You know, a friend of mine once told me I'm always looking for the next hill or the next mountain the next peak, basically. And I love the outdoors. I love exercising. And I started to read and follow different people online who were doing cold water for their health, their physical health. And so I was interested in it for that reason. And I'm always interested in doing challenging things that don't seem like they would be fun or very enjoyable. And I ran into a group of people in Sitka who cold water dip pretty regularly. And so I asked them when they were doing that. And I thought this is a good challenge for myself. And I started doing it a little over 2 years ago, just once a week. And let me tell you, I dreaded those days. I did not want to do it. But I knew that it's important to force yourself to do things you don't want to do. And it's only 5 minutes. That's all it. You can suffer and do almost anything for 5 minutes. And so I thought this is a great thing. And I never in a million years thought that I would become to crave it or that I would enjoy it as much as I do now. And we usually go in about 3 or 4 times a week. And my husband and I go now. We live on the water. We're fortunate and blessed to have a house where we can just go from our yard right into the ocean and enjoy the cold together. And we love nature. And so we started snorkeling. And that is a game changer because it allows us to distract our minds from the cold because we're busy looking at the starfish or the crabs and the little fish and all the things that are happening in the ocean. And so it's a whole new world. And that's been a real fun journey for us to uncover that. And then also just the mental. So it makes you feel so good. It's 5 minutes out of your day, maybe 10, and then you've got to go get warmed up. But afterward, you just feel like $1,000,000. You felt like you've accomplished something super hard. It didn't take very much time. And it helps you with your stress because there can be a lot of stress in life in general. And there's a lot of mental benefits, like medical mental benefits to getting your vascular system rolling. And it just does that like really quickly and easily. So we enjoy it for those reasons.
Well, you didn't start your life near the cold water of Sitka, Alaska. Tell us about what brought you to Alaska and why did you decide to invest your life in this state?
Well, when I was in the 4th grade, I saw a video, the old kind with the reel and it was like on a thing and it goes tick, 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 and you can see the little squares of the pictures. And it was on Alaska. And I was really enamored by the uniqueness of the state, the vastness, and just how different it was from the rest of the U.S. And so I always had this desire to visit Alaska. And my brother is a pilot, so he got a job flying in Southeast Alaska and for a small company. And so I thought, well, why wait? I was in my early 20s. I'm going to go and visit my brother. I have a place to stay. And this is in the early 90s. And so I took a little vacation. It was like 10 days or something. And I came and stayed with him. I did every quintessential thing you could do in Southeast Alaska almost. I went and saw glaciers. We had a glacier tour of Glacier Bay, a flight scene tour. I hiked the Chilkoot Trail. Didn't know I was going to do it until I got here, but that was really fun. I got to see the Northern Lights. I saw an American bald eagle for the very first time. I floated down the Chilkat River. So, I mean, I just had the best trip you could ever imagine. And when I was leaving, I was super sad and I vowed to come back. And within 6 months, I'd moved back and did some seasonal work, and just happened to fall into Sitka, fell in love with Sitka, and have pretty much been here ever since. I lived in Juneau for a short time as well and moved away from the state for a little time and then just missed it so much I came back to Sitka, and that was in 1994, and I've been here ever since. So love it.
What is it about Sitka that people fall in love with it? Because it's not the first time I've heard that. Many people talk about finding the Paris of the Pacific and then never wanting to leave. What do you think is special about that town?
Well, it's unbelievably beautiful. So there are mountains, and there's a painting of it here behind me on the wall that my father-in-law did. And it just has a really good energy to it. The mountains and the ocean, everything I want is within a 5-minute walk. Whether I want to go hiking, camping, boating, snorkeling, scuba diving, fishing. I mean, the only thing it might not have is like a sand dune, and maybe there are even horses here now. I used to do a lot of horseback riding when I was young, but I don't miss the horses because it has the ocean and all the other things that come with it. And then it's a small community, and there are pros and cons to small communities, but it's very nice place there's a lot of cultural things happening here. So I don't feel isolated because so much takes place here that, people like it, that a lot of neat things happen, from music festivals to intellectual. Like there's a wonderful whale festival here. There's a big herring fishery that's really fun and festive, and it's very cultural as well. And so there's a ton of art, there's education, there are a lot of educated people in town, and so there's a lot of intellectual, I think, stimulation within the community. There's a lot of history here, and then there's not, you can do all of your errands in an hour because there's only 14 miles of road. And so usually your errands are in a 2-mile radius from the post office to your job, your house, the place where you're going to take your trash, recycling, and the grocery store. It's all within a 2-mile radius. So you can get everything done very quickly.
Sitka inspires, and so does Alaska. You'd mentioned the artist community there in Sitka. You're among that community. Talk a little bit about your art under the banner of Lateral Line Designs. You make art for Alaska and with Alaska. Talk more about it.
Yeah, like most artists that have other jobs, I think we're always like, I wish I had more fun or more time to do my art. But in Sitka, because it's a place where you can slow down, and it's in the slowing down that your brain has some space to be creative. And so I find that it's easy to be creative here. And nature is all around everywhere you are, at all times. And nature inspires me tremendously. And so I usually am doing most of my art in relation to something from nature. And where I've kind of, for whatever reason, gone down this path of wearable art. And although I do art that's not wearable, but that's kind of where I start. And so it's the challenge. Again, I like to challenge myself, whether it's physically or mentally or emotionally or spiritually. And so I saw some vertebrae, some fish vertebrae on the beach one time, many, many, many years ago. And I thought, oh, that's so pretty. It was bleached, and it just had like this little nice serpentine shape. The bones on the sand is a very stark and beautiful image. And so I had the idea that if you collected the vertebrae, they all have little holes in them and you could use them like beads. And so I slowly started to do things with fish vertebrae, and that's evolved over time into all the other things that I do now with art. Now, there's a lot of fish here, and fish parts are free and easy to get. So I can go to the fish processor and get bones or skins. And so I took a skin sewing class, and now I do a fair amount of work with fish skins, all different kinds of fish, whether it's rockfish or salmons or halibut, any kind of lingcod. It doesn't matter if it's a fish and I can get skin off of it, I'll try it. And I've made lampshades, I've made wearable art dresses, and all kinds of different things with mostly dry.
Keen on a couple of your pieces. The piece that is made, that part of what you're describing at the Museum of the North, made from salmon carcasses. Then I want you to talk about that piece that was featured on Alaska, on the cover of Alaska magazine not too long ago, that raven piece. Talk about both of those, if you would.
Well, the fishbone one was just inspired by a salmon vertebrae, so I wanted to create that shape. And I just wanted to be like, crazy. Like, what can I do? The most craziest thing is to get enough fish bones that I make an entire dress out of nothing but fish bones. And so I created this dress that is kind of has a 1940s vibe to it. And it's just 100% made on of salmon vertebrae. And so I collected a lot of those bones from the beach, and my family helped me. You know, you just go down at low tide when the salmon have already mostly been rotting and there's just the vertebrae left, and maybe a head and a tail, but you try and, you know, just cut those off or get rid of them. And then you take that vertebrae home, and then it's a long process of cleaning and bleaching and drying and sorting and cleaning, and they have to off gas. They're very stinky. And in fact, my dress smelled kind of stinky when I first made it, but it's got better over time. But at any rate, and then I didn't have enough from my collections, even though I had like a bunch of buckets full. So I needed to get more, and I got more from the fish processor that were a little bit bigger bones, thank goodness, because it took me forever to string them. I had stringing parties where I'd have friends come over, and we would just sit at a big table and we'd put little fish vertebrae on strings of fishing line, essentially. And then I would sew them onto the dress from there. And so that was the inspiration for that. And I was really trying to get into a show in New Zealand called The World of Wearable Art. And I wasn't able to get into that show, but everyone in Alaska was fascinated by this dress made on of fish bones, of course, because Alaskans are really into fish. And so it kind of got its own little following in Alaska. And then the Museum of the North just contacted me. That's a museum in Fairbanks, Alaska, and said, we really want a contemporary piece that's representing people from Southeast Alaska and how they interact with their environment. So that dress they felt fitted that bill perfectly. And so they purchased it from me, which I was thrilled with, because, you know, when you're done with your art pieces, especially your wearable arts, you just put them in a box, or sometimes you dismantle them and use them somewhere else. But I treat it like a teenager. It's like out on its own. It's paying its own rent, buying its own groceries, doing its own laundry. And I've actually gone to Fairbanks and visited it before. So that was kind of fun. I could visit my dress.
Well, let's talk about another one of your dresses. That was, if you've noticed a spectacular raven on the cover of Alaska magazine in the past year or so, that was Cynthia Gibson's art. Talk about the raven.
Yeah, so then there's a fashion show in Alaska called Trend Alaska, and they do mostly fashion, but they like to include wearable. They do it for, it's a fundraising event in usually the winter. So right now they're doing it in February, and they raise money for different nonprofit organizations, but they mostly have it's a fashion show. But they mix in wearable artists. So they have usually 4 pieces in their show mixed within all of the regular fashion. And so they invited me to come up one year, and that's when I was able to visit the bone dress. We had the bone dress, we borrowed it from the museum, so that came and was part of the show. And then I brought my raven dress that I had always wanted to make something out of vinyl records. And my husband, who's also an artist, had made this large raven out of vinyl records as a sculpture for somebody in their home. And so I had the idea that I could make a whole raven like costume. Well, it's really just the wearable art piece. And it's very theatrical. Like it's really a great item to wear and perform in. And I had a great dancer that was my model, and she did a fantastic job of doing the performance. And it photographs really well. So Alaska Magazine was doing an article, a piece on this trend fashion show. And so they found that image in the trend show's archives, and they liked it enough to put it on their cover. So that was like a total thrill and surprise for me. I had no idea that that was going to happen, nor had I even had it as a goal or even a thought that I could ever have a piece on a cover of a magazine. And so that was like a really special day for me to learn that. And so that was a lot of fun, and I still, get a kick out of that. That I have a picture of one of my pieces on Alaska Magazine.
Cynthia mentioned that she's married to Keith Gibson, an accomplished Alaska artist in his own right, and together you guys collaborated on maybe what was one of your biggest art pieces, the Stone Lantern House. Now, this is an amazing property. If you had to describe the Stone Lantern House to somebody who's never been there, how would you go about it, Cynthia?
Oh gosh, I would say, again, my love of nature and organic things and real things. So real rocks, real wood, real stone, real whatever, linens, um, is kind of like what I wanted to do. So as creative people, and everyone's creative, by the way, so you just have to tap into that. And what I find is that you get these things that build up inside you, whatever that thing is. And sometimes it's good to get it out. And I had a house that was inside me I needed to get out. And so in that house, I really had a passion for Japanese architecture because they are very intentional with the inside and the outside. So viewing the house from the outside and also viewing the garden from the inside. And so I really wanted to have a house that did that, but not be on the nose Japanese. It just needed to have that influence and be a little bit contemporary, something that was going to be hard to date so it wouldn't age. So it would age well, I guess is the proper way to say it. And that it wasn't going to be, super typical, not a typical house. And that the views and the nature, we were able to be blessed with a great opportunity to buy this fantastic piece of property on an island that we actually lived on already. And so we were able to buy it. It's kind of across the street from our house. And the property had never been built on. And so we were able to take advantage of just the natural rock and beauty of the piece of property and the views. And we were also blessed with a fantastic architect, a terrific builder. Like everything just fell in line. The builder was so great and doing everything that we wanted to do in a really meticulous, beautiful fashion. The architect and I agreed and loved everything that we both liked. We never had an argument about that. Keith never really cared what I wanted to do. He just supported. He was there saying, okay, what do I do today? In fact, he had no idea. Like half the time I was like, have you even looked at the house plans? Like we got like 8 pages of drawings that would answer half these questions that you're asking. But he's like, no, that's okay. Just tell me what to do, which we can be really helpful because you don't have too many cooks in the kitchen. So, so it turned out this great project that is way more than I ever would have imagined, even just 5 years ago in my life that I could do something like this. And so,
And this is a piece of art that people can actually visit and stay in and enjoy whenever they come to Sitka, right?
yeah, it's a vacation rental. And so, yeah, it's a fantastic place to come and relax, just zen out. I just checked people in yesterday and they're like, we know we should be going out and looking at all the things in Sitka, but we just want to stay here at the house because it's so lovely and relaxing. And there's a view out of every single window, and there's these great big windows everywhere. And ironically, these people are from Alaska. They're from Anchorage, and they had their family from, I think, Michigan meet them here in Sitka because they love Sitka and they come down and vacation here.
Well, let's move
Because
ahead.
it's easy to get around, and right now, it's a summer, so that the weather happens to be good, and it's good.
While I'm there in the summertime, that's when you need to check out Alaska Storytellers. Let's move ahead a couple years to the spring of 2022, the acclaimed launch of Alaska Storytellers. Cynthia, if I'm coming to Alaska and Sitka on a cruise ship, what can I expect to experience with Alaska Storytellers?
Well, there are a lot of things to do in Sitka when you come here on a cruise ship, and so it's hard to fit it all in. But if you're just wanting to find out, and have some history, we have a 30-minute presentation, and it's a historical story about what happened when the Russians came to Alaska, particularly Sitka, why they stayed in Sitka, and then why they left. And then a little bit about what happened after that. So we take people on a journey from 1790 through 1945, actually. And we do that with a video and a story. So we have a storyteller that tells the whole story along the way and narrates that video. And then in between all of that, we also have dancers that perform. So the dancers further the story along. So we have 3 Russian dances, a contemporary dance, a Western dance, and a jitterbug. So there are 6 dances total. But, why we did that is just in response to just the cruise ship industry and trying to help our economy get more diversified. There's not a lot of tours like that in Sitka that are consistent every day. And we knew we had some background in this type of thing, which I won't go into all that, but we were able to put together this little group that's still growing. We're still learning a lot, and we still have a lot of big plans for the future for this group, but it's a fantastic way to get the history of Sitka. It's fun, it's entertaining, and we also tried to be extremely respectful and accurate with giving it a voice that wasn't so westernized, with also without speaking for our native brothers and sisters, so that we did it in a way that was respectful and in keeping with a more modern storytelling sort of style.
And so far, what have the cruise ship visitors had to say? What has the reaction been like to the straight dope from Sitka?
Yeah, people love it. We have these storytellers that are local Sitkans, and they're usually retired people, and they're the ones that are actually, helping tell the story. And I guess the thing that makes me feel the best is that because they've lived here for 30 years, most of them, the people telling our stories with us, and they're like, this makes me feel proud of Sitka. This story is well told. And it's because it can be a touchy subject because we're addressing the conflict between the Russians and the local Tlinkits, and just some of the injustices that were done during the time from when the U.S. purchased Alaska through 1945 and beyond. We're not addressing beyond 1945, but we are giving some credit to a famous Native woman, Elizabeth Peratrovich. We end with her story to try to give some even footing within the cultures and talk about some of the positive things that have happened, and try to focus on some of the things, and then again just give that even footing within the story of the battle and why that took place. So of course the visitors love it because it's very entertaining. Our dancers have enthusiasm times 10. They're all just terrific people. And so that's a lot of fun for people to watch. People love to see the Russian dancing, which is like authentic. But then it's also nice to see some of these other dances that just help tell that story. And so in that way, it's good. So it's almost like we were thinking about 2 audiences because, if you're visiting, you don't know the sort of the touchiness between the cultures. But we were really careful in trying to be sensitive to being, like a modern, like how do we go forward? It's an important story that needs to be told, and we can't shy away from that. We should be able to tell it in a way that's respectful and also accurate.
Between lateral line designs, stone lantern house, we've talked about Alaska Storytellers. Now we need to get to the heart of all of this fun and passion. Cynthia has been a financial advisor in Alaska for 25 years with Wayfinder Wealth. Now, tell us what do you love about your job? What do you love about your work, Cynthia?
Well, I think with everything that I do, I'm very goal oriented. And so in my work, I'm helping people with their goals. So what I love is that a goal can have so much power if you just talk about it and write it down and start giving it some structure. And that's how I've been able to build any of my projects. Even my dress, my goal was like 10 strings a night. I got to do 10 strings a night because I have 100 days left to get this dress done. I've calculated I need 1,000 strings. So if I do a 10 a night, then I'm going to make it, or whatever the number is. So that's how I do a lot of things. It's just these little baby steps. How do you eat an elephant? It's just like one bite at a time. And so I love empowering people with the little bites, helping them take that first bite. Okay, what does your retirement goal look like? And what are the things that are blocking you? And so just like a coach is going to help you, get past your fears, whatever it is that they're coaching you about, whether it's like coaching you how to be a better writer, coaching you how to run a faster mile, coaching you how to jump, a higher height or something like that, how to throw a baseball, whatever it is that you're getting coached on. And so that's how I view my role with my clients, is just coaching people to help them achieve their goals for the reasons that are important to them. Because that's why we have goals in the first place, because different things are important to different people, whether that's your spiritual journey, your family journey, the journey that you have because you want to give back to your community, whatever that journey is for you, then helping you define that and then take the steps necessary to achieve those goals.
If you want to get something done, ask a busy person. Cynthia Gibson, what's next? What's the next busy thing that you'll be up to?
Well, I feel a little stretched at the moment. So my next thing is like, how can I delegate a little bit more? I need some more who's in my life. And then ultimately, I do have my next big goal is something to do with my financial practice, which is having to do with Social Security. So I help people a lot with Social Security questions. I find that whole puzzle fascinating. And so I've really taken a deep dive into how Social Security works. And there are a lot of interesting ways to kind of extrapolate and incorporate Social Security rules into the financial planning world and your comprehensive goals. And because of that, I found that there's a lot of disinformation out there, and it's maybe not just information more than it's just ignorance, because there's a lot to understand. So much so that most people wouldn't have the time nor the interest. It's not that interesting for most people. To me, it is, but not most people. To really understand the different nuances between the rules, because the rules are different depending on your age. Lots of different rules for different things. And so I've kind of put together some ideas about how to make things more clear. And I'm going to hopefully build a program that can help other financial advisors, because even Social Security is advising my clients incorrectly. I'm trying to develop some programs and some software and a financial website where people like me, or even clients who are interested in this kind of thing, can get into it and more clearly understand what the rules are based on, how they answer questions. So that's my next big goal. How do I make something more clear? Because that is one thing that I like to do, is to take complex problems and distill them down into simple and easy to understand steps.
Thank you very much to our guest today, Cynthia Gibson. If you know an Alaskan entrepreneur or business leader that you think we should feature here on Alaska Means Business, nominate them at alaskameansbusiness.com. For MeTV Alaska, I'm Blake Messer. So long.